Eros Meets Agape is a bi-weekly heart-to-heart conversation about love, sex, marriage, and relationships. Everyone wants to love and be loved, but everyone does not know how to give and receive the love they both want and need. Intimacy and passion are essential, yet mean nothing if there isn't unconditional and sacrificial love, which is the foundation for any lasting relationship. Dr. Sadia is a licensed marriage and family therapist and minister. Let's listen in as she shares how to create healthier and happier relationships.
Hey there, family. It's me, your host, Dr. Sadia. And that's right. We are on the final 2 episodes of the Eros Meets Agape podcast. Now, you know I am about everything love and relationship related. With that being said, there is no way I am going to close out this podcast without leaving you with essential tips, tools, and resources to help you to master connection in your relationship. I mean, that's what we're all about here, right? We're talking about love on this podcast. Eros love, that's right, that passionate kind of love. And you know, I love me some Jesus. So I talk about the agape kind of love. So I want to help you to be able to start off your new year with love in mind, as well as having you equipped and ready to give the best and most in the new year for your current or next relationship. With that being said, let's head on over into the classroom. All right, I will see you in a second. That's right, guys. Can you believe it? We are on the second to last episode. It is so hard to believe that I have literally been here for 5 years, literally. Now, the podcast did not start until April of 2018. However, I was recording in December of 18. Well, I won't say December. I was recording in January of 2018. And I was basically doing all the background work in December of 2017. Or was that 2016? It's so hard to remember. I know it's been 5 years though, guys. With that being said, it's been 5 years since I've been here with you on this podcast. And I'm sure if you've listened to the earlier episodes, you're like, oh my Lord, is this, oh my gosh, I hope this girl gets better. Thank you for hanging in there with me. I hope I've improved over the years, gotten to the point, because you all know I can tell a story and drag it out, right? And I'm always forgetting a point here and there. But I think, that's what makes me me. And I appreciate you all for hanging in there in spite of it all. But you know what? I can't believe it. We're at the end. It's December. You all know I love me some Christmas and some Jesus, and Christmas allows me to be able to have the best of both worlds. So I am in my element right now, being excited that it is the holiday season. I love Christmas, as I've already stated. And I thought about, what do I want to do in order to close out these final episodes? I would be out of order if I did not leave you all with quick go-to tips, right? It's like over 100 episodes of this podcast. And sometimes we just need quick go-to tips that help us to really understand how we show up when it comes to love in our relationship. And then as well with giving us tips and tools to help us to be better with regards to love. Now, even though the podcast is ending, I'm still going to be here. I'll just be on another platform, and I'll be sharing more about that in the final episode, because I have a special treat for you all in the final episode. So anybody who has ever wondered, does this lady really know what she's talking about? She sounds like she knows what she's talking about. She has a degree in what she's talking about, and she even counsels and coaches. But how do I know that what she says is true? You hang in there, because I promise you, on episode 128, which is our last episode, I'm going to prove to you that everything that I've been saying, that if someone actually followed suit and did these things, you would see the results. And I'm going to prove that to you on our final episode. I can't wait to air that episode, because it is a real treat for anyone who's been listening, but I'll tell you more about that next time. Until then, I want to tell you all a couple of things, right? So I thought about it and I said, you know what? The podcast is ending, but I still want to connect with my peoples. We've developed a relationship. I believe we're family. I don't just say, hey there, family, just because it's cute. I consider you all family, because you all have been there with me for the past 5 years listening. New listeners are coming in, joining the family. And I'm always excited to share love with family. So here's what I want you to pay attention to. So if you're single, if you're dating, if you're in a long-term relationship or married, I am going to start a challenge. That's right. I'm going to start a love challenge January 15th of the new year. I'll have more information on my Eros Meets Agape Instagram page so you can sign up, learn more about the challenge. But basically, here's what's going to happen. This challenge, like I said, is for singles and couples who really just want to kick off the new year with essential relationship tools and tips that are going to help you to skyrocket love in your life and in your relationship. So anyone who is single, I have the Baywatch challenge. That's right, because we're probably on the lookout for Bay. And so what better way than to help us to be prepared than to really join in and sign up for the Baywatch challenge that will start on January the 15th. Going through the 21st. And it's really just going to help you to attract and keep an emotionally available partner. That's right. No one wants to date anyone who is not emotionally available, is shut down, doesn't communicate, doesn't share their feelings. We're tired of dating that guy or that girl. So that being said, I'm going to help you so that you're able to attract someone who is emotionally available, as well as be able to identify that person without having put in a couple of months worth of work in order to do so. So if you're interested in being able to develop a relationship with an emotionally available partner and to be able to pick that person out of a crowd, join the Baywatch Challenge. For those of you that are, let's just say, in a long-term relationship or married, I just want you to know I have not forgotten about you. If you desire to experience greater emotional connection with Bay in the new year, then that's right. You're going to join the Connect 4 challenge. And you're probably like, what the heck? That's right. Y'all know I'm a kid at heart. So everything that I'm doing is already coming from someplace else. I used to love that game, Connect 4. But I'm going to give you 4 essential tips and tools that will help you to build healthier and greater, stronger emotional connection with Bay. So join me on January the 15th through the 21st. Sign up. I'm going to have more information on the last episode as well. You'll find information on the Eros Meets Agape Instagram page. With that being said, I've told you enough. So let's go ahead and jump on into today's episode where I'm talking about mastering connection, because that's what it's all about. Even with the challenges, guys, I'm really trying to do things to help you to be more proficient in love, being more emotionally expressive. And that's right, even more vulnerable, thus not allowing yourself to really be afraid to love or being afraid to be loved. That happens. Sometimes we get hurt in relationships and it can cause us to shut down. I know many people experience that. I've even been there, right? Being hurt by love doesn't necessarily mean that you've done things wrong or there's something wrong with you. Sometimes it just means you didn't have the tools to do what it is that you needed to do in order to make the best and most happen from that relationship so that you could experience the best and most from that person. So today, on this second to last episode of the Eros Meets Agape podcast, I'm going to give you 5 essential tools and tips that will help you to master connection. So get out your pen and paper or pull up the notes app on your phone because we're getting ready to dive in. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Now we're talking about mastering connection. And when we're talking about mastering connection, there are 5 things I'm going to walk you through. So stay with me, okay? We're going to go through 5 points: picturing connection, identifying connection, exploring connection, building connection, and then, of course, what this episode is all about, mastering connection. So let's go ahead and dig in. When we talk about this first tool that you need to learn, picturing connection, a lot of times when I am talking with any individual who has, let's just say, overcome a challenge or a hurt as a result to a love that has went wrong or a relationship that has ended, or if they're just new to love and life and dating, they're trying to figure it all out for themselves, the common denominator between all of those individuals and their experiences is that they have not identified what it is that they want to see. And you're probably like, what does that mean? Okay, let's look at it this way. Everybody, I say this all the time, everybody wants to love and be loved, but everyone does not know how to go about giving and receiving the love that they both want and need, okay? If you all have read the show notes, you know that's the first paragraph of every episode, because I want to drill that point into you, right? I want you to know that it is important for you to have, as well as to give, a love that is not just beneficial and meets your emotional needs and wants as well as your desires, but it's a love that allows you to be able to experience that with another person who is able and willing to do the same thing. But even though we may know that we want love, nobody really sits down to figure out, what do I want that love to look like? I mean, I'd be honest in saying it probably wasn't until the Obamas came around and we were like, wait a minute, I want to be a couple like that. That's a power couple, or they're a cute couple. However you wanted to identify them. In my opinion, I would say it happened before them, but probably with the Obamas, people were probably like, yeah, I definitely want to identify as this kind of power couple. Or I guess probably people really identify that with Beyonce and Jay-Z too. But in essence, it's all about having the picture for what you want and not mimicking someone else, but knowing who you are and identifying with that. So you have to know, what is your vision when it comes to a relationship? Not just, I want to be happy, or I want someone who doesn't cheat on me, or I want someone who is loving, or I want to be married forever. Whatever it is that you pick, it's not just identifying those things and your likes or dislikes, wants or things that you don't want. It's about picturing what it is that you want in your relationship. So I've given this example before. Whenever I'm working with couples and they're really trying to figure out what it is that they want for their relationship, they're rebuilding, I'll explain to them how when you remodel a house, you're really picking out what it is that you want that house to look like, and you're designing that. In essence, when you are picturing connection, the first step is to figure it out what it is that you want so you can know it when you see it. If you don't know it when you see it, then it will be hard to envision when you have a partner, if that's it or not. So it's not like your wedding dress where you just know it when you see that, right? You're like, oh, yes, this is the one. You might try it on 3 or 4 other ones, and that was like, oh, those are pretty. I look nice. I look like a woman in a wedding dress, but it didn't feel like yours, right? You have to know what it is that you want. You have to envision what it is that you want. So that means you have to know what it is that you believe about love, because that's what you're going to receive. If you don't believe that you are going to have a wonderful experience from love, let me help you out. You won't, because you're going to get what it is that you see on the inside. What happens on the inside evidences itself on the outside, not the other way around. What you see and believe and hold on to on the inside is exactly what you get on the outside. So in order to make the outside match what it is you see on the inside, let's paint that picture, okay? Now, when you're painting a picture, you have to know what your goals are. And I think one of the greatest way to identify your goal and to keep it in front of you is to put a picture up of some of your happiest moments with your spouse, if you're in a relationship, but if you're single, to still put up a picture of your happiest moment that you've experienced in your life. Now, am I saying that if you put this picture up, everything that is happening in that time in your life will manifest itself on the outside? No, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that you are creating a vision. So if you put a picture up of you and your spouse at your happiest moment in time, guess what happens if you see that picture every single day, all day long? That's right. You're going to reflect on those times, what was said, what was done, what you did, what they did. And over time, I'm not saying you're going to look at your current situation and wish, things could be that way. You're going to actually do the opposite. You're going to actually do things that allow you to recreate that time period, but with the knowledge and information and wisdom and experience that you presently have. So you have to paint the picture, right? Scripture says, write the vision and make it plain, right? If you don't write it down, it's not going to happen. So you have to actually have a picture. For those that are single, it's the same concept. What is the time in your life that was really one of your happiest moments? Or, that was most memorable to you in a good way, positively, right? Because that is when you were experiencing the best of yourself. And you probably had people around you that were supporting you, or, you had things going on for you that were positive. When we are in a positive state of mind, guess what, people? We attract positivity. There's no way you're going to be positive all the time, and then you exude positivity and you get negativity back. That's not how it works. So if you are in your relationship and things aren't at its best, go back to when it was at its best. There's no way you can give that and not receive that back from your partner. Every partner likes effort. And when people see you applying effort, they may not be on board initially, but if you remain consistent, then they're going to join along with you, right? A relationship, in essence, are two people in a ship together. You're headed in the same direction. But if you don't have the same vision, then no wonder things can't work, because you're headed in different directions. If two people do not share one vision, then guess what you have? Division. Two people going two different ways, and instead you need to go the same way. So how do we do that? We do that by allowing ourselves to picture connection. You have to picture it on the inside before it can manifest itself on the outside. What happens externally has already taken place internally. So you need to identify what it is that you want. What do you want to see? What do you want to experience? In essence, what are your relationship goals? If you're in a relationship, what do you want to see in this relationship take place? If you are single and you are looking for your next partner or waiting on your next partner, then you still need to identify what are my goals, because you want to know the type of relationship you are desiring to have before you get it. So let me give you an example. With me. So I'm single, and when it comes to a relationship, I have certain key points that I know that are requirements for me that will make me my best at serving another person in a relationship. And I must see these things. But I also know that because I'm in a line of work and love, and I spend a lot of time with men and women, I know what men want too. So I know there are certain things that I must be. And it doesn't have to, I understand all about the feminist movement and all that. Let's just put that to the side. That's not this talk show. Not talk show. That's not this podcast. That's not this episode. I'm just simply discussing at some place and point, you're going to have to put certain things aside and be a certain way for your mate. That's your mate. Then other people can do whatever they want with their mate. You don't have to do the same thing. But if I know who it is that I am, then that means that I am showing up being what it is that I need to be for my partner, and vice versa. And I have goals in mind for what I want in my relationship. Love is great. Sex, awesome. Building a life, having a great home and living in a nice neighborhood, driving a nice car, going to a nice job, really cute. But it's time out for that. For me, that means, those things are awesome, but let's build a future together, meaning let's build some type of empire together. Let's give and donate to our community. Let's build our community up. Let's do something for the body of Christ. That's what I want. Those are my goals. So when I think about picturing my future in relationship, I'm looking at what my goals are for a relationship as well as a partner. So therefore, when it shows up, then I know it's matching what it is that I have for my vision. So the first step you need to do is identifying what it is that you see. What is your vision? Because if you don't have a vision before you connect with someone, they could come along and you get a hold of something that you really aren't, sold on or wanting to be a part of. You want to be on the same page so that you can have one vision. If you're already in a relationship and you find that, I don't know what our vision is, it's okay to actually sit down and have a vision or a mission statement as your relationship. I'm not saying you have to make your relationship a business. However, you do want to make certain you're on the same page, because as time goes by and work and kids and life and serving, all that takes place, you can lose focus of what it is that your relationship was designed to be. And if you lose focus, then you don't have a clue as to where your next steps are as a couple, let alone you'll get lost as an individual. But if you have a goal in mind of who you want to be and how you want your relationship to be and what you would like for your partner to be, then you always have that in the forefront of your mind. So if things seem to go off track, you're able to sit down, think about things clearly, see things through with your partner to the place where you are getting back on the same page and you're riding along in that ship together in that relationship. Okay. So I want you to think of this acronym. It's called IOU. So we know that an IOU, you basically know what it means, but I'm going to think about it in a different way here. Whether you're single or in a relationship, I want you to think about this IOU when it comes to picturing connection. You want to ask yourself, do you initiate? Do you oblige? And do you uplift? So how often do you initiate certain conversations that are essential in order for you to express your needs in a relationship, right? So when I say, how often do you express that? And you're probably like, well, if I'm single, who am I talking to? Guess what? You're supposed to be telling yourself this, because here's what's going to happen. If I know what my relationship needs are, right, and I am making certain that I am initiating opportunities to have those needs met, then I'm not going to fool around with people who I know are not providing those relationship needs, right? So I have to initiate opportunities, thus conversations with people in order to figure out, are they an individual who possesses the ability to fulfill my emotional needs, which is a requirement for me as an individual as part of a relationship. And if I actually have a partner, I still need to initiate that conversation with my partner, right? I need to specifically find out what it is that my partner may be needing from me as we pursue this vision together in our life together. You want to find out, how much do you or your significant other really oblige one another, right? Meaning, are you responsive to one another in your requests for love, in your requests for emotional connection, reassurance, or help? Are you obliging one another or are you ignoring them? All right. Then the third thing, uplifting. How often do you uplift one another in a relationship? You have to uplift one another because this is a cold, cruel world out there, folks. And if you don't have someone supporting you, understanding you, and understanding your emotional needs, then it can cause you to feel weakened when you leave out, and thus susceptible to hurt and pain that might be necessary if you had someone that was really in your corner. So if you're in a relationship, you want to initiate conversations for this. If you are in a relationship, you want to make certain that you are obliging the other person to check in and being responsive for them with regard to their emotional needs, because that's part of our responsibility if we're in a relationship. And then as well, you want to uplift them. Now, singles, hold out here. I'm not saying this one isn't for you. It just isn't for you just now. But you do want to make certain that you're able to articulate what your emotional needs are so that you can initiate conversations with a potential bae to see if they possess the skills to be able to meet your emotional needs. Because nobody has time to be waiting around and trying out different things. No, that's not what we want to do. All right. We want to make certain that we get it right the next time so that the next time can be our last time when it comes to our next love. Okay. Second point is identifying connection. So what does that really mean? When we're identifying connection, we're making certain that how can I put this? We want to know how we love. We want to know that the love that we want is not born out of fear. We want to know that it's not born out of, should I say, inerrant thinking, believing, or feeling, or acting. We want to know that the love that we are desiring, that is actually healthy love. So we need to know where our own shortcomings are. We need to know if or how we fall short so that we can work on those things. Now, identifying connection is an ouch moment. I'm just going to go ahead and just put it on out there because that's what you're probably reading it as. Identifying connection is a shortcoming for ourselves. This is not meant to be viewed from the aspect of identifying an issue with another person. When we are not really experiencing connection or we don't have connection, then we have to figure out where's our shortcoming. So you know me, I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to use me. So all my friends tell me, Sadia, you say you want to be married, but yet I do not see you going out a lot. You don't really even go on these dating websites. So how are you supposed to get to this place if you don't put yourself out there? That's my shortcoming. That's where, when it comes to love, I might know what I want, or I might, know how I love, but how am I going to get a chance to experience it if I don't open myself up? Now, I believe I have a different situation. I'm working a lot. There's no excuse for that. I have to open up time so that I have space available for someone to come along. But in the same sense, just being honest with you all, I've told you all about this before. I did the dating website and almost had a close call with connecting with a ex-spouse of someone that I counseled years ago. I can't remember everybody I counsel. Unfortunately, I love all my clients, but I just can't remember them all. And I knew I recognized this person, but I went to a large high school, went to a large college, and I just couldn't remember. So I'm just thankful that he stated where I knew him from. And I was like, okay, exit stage left pronto. All that to say, when it comes to identifying connection, guys, you have to identify first what is blocking connection. For me, I don't make time for love. And I know that if I want to have a strong 2023, I need to open up and have time for that, which means I have to open up my calendar that's doing less work and having more time to get out, mix and mingle. Now, that's where I fall short. But you have to identify where you fall short. Yeah, you may know how you love, but is any of that causing you to be in error when it comes to love in a relationship? It could show up as being too critical. It could show up as maybe you shut down. Maybe you're inconsistent and you need to not be, as finicky, but instead, be more of a solid base for someone. It could be a number of things. It could be a number of reasons that there's just too much time to list, but you need to know the basics so that at least you know how to show up when an opportunity for you does present itself to show up, whether in your next relationship if you're single, or whether it's tomorrow or later on today with your current partner or spouse. So that means you really need to figure out, how am I falling short when it comes to identifying connection? Because I know I'm definitely a person that is trying to connect, but it's not happening. Before we say, just stop the brakes and look at the other person, we want to look at ourselves. And when we look at ourselves, what do you see? Are you seeing fear? And that's what's causing you not to open up and share or love or express yourself in a way that you or even your partner really needs? Or is it the fact that you maybe just don't know how to love freely, honestly, vulnerably, without there being some type of pain attached to it? So therefore you do so with reserve, whether or not you do it at all. Either way, we have to get to this place where we are okay with our shortcomings, but that doesn't mean we become complacent with them. Meaning we're not going to be so hard on ourselves. We're not going to fault our parents for jacking us up. We're not going to, do any type of, cursing another person that did us wrong. No, we're simply going to start from where we are, whether we're single or in a current relationship, and we're going to start fresh. And the first thing that we need to do when it comes to starting fresh and identifying connection is first figuring out whether or not there's a barrier. Because if there's a barrier, that's most definitely going to prevent me from actually connecting. But in order for me to connect, I need to get rid of these so that I can actually identify the things that I definitely want and are healthy in being there. All right. So I'm going to help you out. When we are looking at some of our weaknesses, I'm going to help you out with some of the simple weaknesses that people tend to have when it comes to really not being able to identify connection. And you may notice this as a result of prior relationships and what that person has communicated or those persons have communicated to you. You may see a theme or a pattern, or you may see a theme or a pattern in a current relationship. But this is another acronym. So every step, I'm going to give you an acronym that will follow suit, okay? This step for identifying connection, in order for it to take place, right? So you looked at the barriers, you figured out what it is that you're doing or not doing that you need to improve upon. And then you're going to do this final check, okay? And the check is called PER, right? You know, like how, you know, we as Black people, when we're like, I can't believe you just asked me this in this email, per my last email, right? That PER, all right, PER. So I want you to ask the following question. How do you perceive, evaluate, and respond to the experiences in your relationship? So when someone presents information to you and they're trying to communicate to you, meaning your significant other, okay, that's the someone I'm talking about. When they're communicating with you about something, how do you perceive that content? Do you automatically go in defense mode? Do you automatically play victim? Do you automatically become accountable for where you went wrong and own up to it? Do you automatically listen and hear them out and actually listen to the whole story before you come up with your point that you want to make? How are you perceiving the information that is communicated to you in a conversation by your significant other? Do you think that they have some ulterior motive? Do you just always believe the best? What is it? Is it positive? Is it negative? Or is it nothing at all? I need to know, how are you perceiving that experience from those conversations that is communicated to you by your significant other? Because that's going to help you to see how you are going to identify connection. If you're not doing it healthily, that's another barrier. If you're doing this healthily, then you are healthily identifying connection, because that's the first step to actually connecting with someone. All right. The next piece in that acronym, evaluate. How are you evaluating information? So the first one, how do you perceive it? Meaning, how are you taking it? So you hear that information. So how do you hear it? How are you, thinking about it, right? When we evaluate it, we're looking at, how am I evaluating this information? Meaning, when it comes in and I filter this information in my head, do I look at this person as if they're wrong, or am I wrong? Do I look at them in a positive view and me a negative view? Or do I look at me in a favorable view and them in an unfavorable view? And as a result, I evaluate this situation haphazardly. And then lastly, how do you respond? Because how you perceived and evaluated that content will cause you to respond and thus communicate in a particular way. And I'm just here to let you know, I talk about it all the time. We are creating a platform for you to have connection. These are the first steps in how we identify connection, because the other person is automatically looking at how you take information when you give it. Because guess what? If I know this person doesn't take it well, I don't want to open up to them, because I know that there's going to be a fight to ensue, because they're going to evaluate things and say things that I never said or interpret it a way that I never intended. I'm avoiding all that nonsense. I'm just not going to say anything. But then we get mad when they shut down and we're upset with them. But why? It's because of how we responded. It's not mostly how it is that we're communicating that's the issue. It's the presentation of it all. I can say something that's unfavorable, but if I say it with love and I wrap it with some kindness, then how I respond can, let's just say, be easily digested, as opposed to if I'm, just all over the place and I'm loud, or I go off on them and I'm critical and I'm damaging to that individual. So you have to ask yourself, how do I perceive, evaluate, and respond to the experiences in my relationship? Because that's what's going to identify connection. And if you don't have that, you don't have the basis, because that is the ground floor, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to identifying connection. That is what a partner is going to look for, because how you think and how you respond is going to determine how long that person is going to be around. All right. Now, that was the ouch moment. All right. We got that past us. Let's take a deep breath. Let's have a woosah moment. All right. Now let's dig into point number 3, which is exploring connection. When we're exploring connection, I want you to think about the cycle that you and a partner get in when there's conflict. Okay. Now you might say, what does that have to do with exploring connection? Because I see exploring as I'm on the lookout. And that's well and true. But guess what? We're going to do this a different way here, right? Exploring connection in the way that I want you to look at it. Again, I'm trying to get rid of every single barrier. We could sit here all day long and talk about all the great things that you need to do, but you also need to be informed about the things that we should not do, okay? And when we are exploring connection, let's look at some things that preempt that connection. So when we get in a cycle where there is conflict, you need to know, what do you look like, and what does your partner look like, or what has previous partners look like when it comes to conflict? How is that handled? Because if it's not in a way that is healthy, then not only do you become a person that you might want to avoid conflict all the time, but now it becomes a matter of, okay, well, I don't even want to talk to them when an issue comes up because I don't want to deal with the aftermath. Or it takes too long to recover after conflict and it just wears you out. Or maybe the conflict in and of itself takes so long that wears you out. Over time, as we age, we learn what we put up with in younger years, or what we did in younger years, is not suitable for us in our older age, or should I say more mature years. When I was younger, I was heated. Now, I didn't have fights or anything like that. I mean, I've had a few, but those were justified. People were picking on me and I defended myself. Those were the only type of fights that I had. Okay. But I was really just like hot-headed, whereas I could contain my thoughts and feelings, and I would express how I felt about things. And then when I felt like, okay, that was the last straw, I would go off, just totally just go off. There is no, okay, hey, I'm about to get upset. And I'm not a cursor when I go off, but boy, my tongue was just sharp. It was ridiculous. That's what I did when I was younger. But as I matured, I mean, it got to the place where I realized that's not helpful. That's not accomplishing anything. That does not provide a safe environment. And in order to change, I had to look at myself. And when I looked at myself, I did not like what I saw. And I learned, okay, I don't want to be this person. So let's figure out who I actually want to be and what I want to look like when it comes to dealing with conflict. Now, I'm not going to lie. Most of the times when we're dealing with conflict, if we're learning and growing, we go from one end of the spectrum to the other. So we may go from not talking to talking too much, or talking too much to not talking at all. We can't do that. That's not healthy either. I did that too, you all. I went from going off to totally just shutting down, being quiet, and disappearing off the face of the earth. That's not how we handle problems either. Now, you can have conversations with people that will give them closure on why you're exiting the relationship. That is suggestive and very healthy to do. But you want to make certain that whatever it is healthy and it's not, toxic for you or the other person. So let's look at what conflict looks like so you can see if you can identify yourself. There are three, I want to call them the 3 C's. There are 3 types of ways that we approach conflict. We can complain about it, we can criticize another person, or just get contemptuous. In essence, what happens if we complain about an issue, it really just means that you're sticking to the issue at hand. If you're arguing about being on time, then you're not going off on what they did last year when you were on vacation and they bought you the wrong item or they forgot your birthday. That has nothing to do with the issue of time, if that's what you all are arguing about. So when we complain in a relationship, that means that we are addressing a person in a healthy way, not coming at them on 10, but actually talking to them about having an issue, and you're sticking to that issue. When you can do that, then a guy does not have to dread having conversations with us, right? It can make, or a woman, it can make it be palatable in order to receive, constructive criticism in a relationship, and thus allow you to be able to change it without, fear of retaliation or, shut down or whatever in a negative light that could take place. Okay. So you want to make certain that you just stick to the complaint. You don't need to criticize an individual and attacking their character. You don't need to be contemptuous in a way that is going to be just really just nasty and mean when you're talking to them. Because at the end of the day, it's all about making certain that you are a safe place to talk to come to run to when there are problems in this world. And if conflict is the area that makes you not be that person, it's only a matter of time before that relationship will end. So if you're exploring connection in your relationship, I want you to take a look at how you address conflict. Because if it's not handled in a healthy way, then I'm just letting you know in advance that you could have a serious problem, if not an issue that may cause the relationship to dissolve. So exploring connection in this aspect, yes, there are many other things that could go along with it, but I'm just helping you with some key tips and tools in order to help you to see a little clearer and healthier in the new year for your relationships. Okay. So that's exploring connection. You all know I have an acronym for that one too. You didn't think I was going to close out and doing an acronym for them all. So this acronym, we're talking about conflict, right? So this acronym is called SOS. Now, the SOS stands for signaling, opposing, and soothing. So when it comes to conflict in your relationship, remember, we're discussing exploring connection, and we're looking at how conflict is a barrier to that. And we need to check ourselves and see, hey, how are we addressing issues in our relationship? Is it healthy or unhealthy? With that being said, here's a tool that can help you to really kind of clarify what's happening and who's causing what to happen. So who is actually signaling for help? And when we signal for help, that means there's stress individually or within the relationship, right? Because conflict happens. And generally, when we're stressed out at our job, we don't cuss out our boss. No, we don't. We want that check. Instead, we come home and we get fussy with our spouse or the kids, and then it causes arguments between us, right? Because behind the scenes, I'm upset about something else. Or I could be upset with you, but don't know how to say it, or may not feel it's safe to do so. So I might apply a passive aggressive approach, or I may just be outright nasty, but I'm signaling that something is wrong. Do I automatically, as that person's partner, do I take it to the extreme and I go off on them? No, let's just take a moment. Let's look at what's happening. When there is conflict, that means we're actually signaling that there is some type of stress that is causing a problem internally or relationally. So we want to make certain that we are actually in a place where we are recognizing that it may be a little obscure or, out of place, but this person is actually trying to reach out for help. And we need to be able to see the sign and not be all up in our feelings, but actually hear them out, okay? And see what it is that they're trying to say. And if we can't see, then just ask, okay? But in most cases, our partner is trying to signal to us, or we're even trying to signal to our partner so they can stop and say, babe, what's wrong? What's going on? So you have to look for the signal. If you're wanting to explore this connection, look for the signals when there are stressors so that you can really put that fire out, okay? Then the next thing is opposing. So you have to look at the way that you and your significant other are approaching stress and conflict, where you're looking behind the scenes and you're asking, are you supportive? Or are you opposing this person when they actually communicate to you their need, or they are in a time of need and may not be sure in how you can help them, but you know that they have a need or something is going on? Are you helpful to them? Are you supportive? Or are you opposing? Because if they see you as opposing, that causes the conflict to continue to mount. And over time, if that person is not really, individual who likes to communicate or communicate their feelings well, then it can build up towards resentment, where it goes back to, if you have conflict over time, if I'm no longer complaining about the issue and I'm not even criticizing, which is kind of minor, but still conflict, it can build to become contentious, where I have this anger and this resentment. But more than likely, things like that build up because you felt as if a person was not there for you, or they disappointed you, did not have your back, or loyal. Well, it could be a number of things. But the bottom line question is this person opposing me in times where I need them? That's what we're asking ourselves. And that's what they are asking themselves when it comes to you. So I hope you can say that you're there for your partner and you're supportive in their time of need. And then the last thing is soothing. When they actually do reach out to you, do you actually calm them? Do you help them to soothe? In therapeutic world, that's basically like helping them to alleviate their stressors. I'm not saying you have to break out your massage table and give them the best masseuse job ever. No. Or, the best foot rub ever. No, I'm not saying that. But what I am trying to communicate is that we have to be a place of refuge to our partner. We have to be a place where, when all is wrong with the world, that they will come to us. I know years ago, I had an ex that, we still communicated or what have you, and he had a family member that passed away. And, we communicated, but we weren't like close. And he called me to tell me that. I had an opportunity in that moment, because that individual was reaching out to me. I had an opportunity in that moment to soothe them, because without saying the words, because this is what was happening, that individual was really trying to say, Sadia, I'm not at my best emotionally because I'm experiencing a loss, and I'm trying to connect with you because I feel you're safe to do so. I have the opportunity to respond in a soothing or a non-soothing way. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't pass the test, y'all. I had a little built up frustration and anger in me. And as a result, I didn't respond well. This is like one of those commercials. Don't be like Sadia. Don't be like Jane, right? You want to be healthier, right? And that means you have to soothe that person. Soothing means you're going to be there for your current or your future partner. And if you don't have a partner, all the steps that I'm going through, don't worry about it. You're writing this down. You're taking notes. So you'll be ready when that partner comes, right? So in this point I'm trying to make here, you want to be soothing to this individual. You want to be their place of refuge, their safe haven that they can come to and talk to when the world is going wrong. Now, I'll be honest, when I am working with singles and I'm explaining this point to them, they're like, you don't understand things I have to deal with. When I say singles, I mean people that are just dating. They're not married to this person. I'm like, look here. You're going to have to suck it up. You're going to have to take a lot of L's here, meaning this person's going to come to you about stuff that you feel in your mind, is stupid, doesn't make sense, is not clear. You don't know why they're sharing this with you. You don't feel like they should be sharing this with you. But guess what? If they're coming to you with information and they believe that you are a place of refuge, even if you're like, this is the silliest thing, or I don't believe they're sharing this with me, guess what, guys? It means that they trust you. And if they trust you, go ahead, keep quiet, take a few L's here, because as they grow, when you converse with them about this and you are communicating, what's healthy sharing, what's not, you're able to show them, I'm still listening, I'm still here. And you're just creating healthy parameters and boundaries around that. Okay. So you want to know, it's like an SOS signal, right? Are you signaling? Are they signaling? What does it look like? Are you opposing? Are they opposing? What does that look like? Or are you actually there and supportive for them? And are you soothing or are they soothing? Meaning you actually need to be a place of refuge and support. All right. I hope this is becoming clear, but at the very end of the day, you're going to have these 5 essential skills that really help you to master connection. All right. So that leads us to point number 4. And point number 4, this is the part you all probably thought I was going to start with, all the good stuff, all the gushy, mushy, lovey-dovey stuff. No, we have to build a foundation, because any house you build, you have to have a strong and solid foundation, because if a strong wind comes through, if a big tidal wave comes through, if there's no solid foundation, the house is gone. Okay. But if you build from a solid foundation, then any storm can come by and it won't cause your house to fall. That's what we're doing when it comes to these 5 steps. If you're able to follow these steps and build upon them, then you're building exactly what you need to have a healthy foundation and to build a solid stronghold in your relationship. Okay. Not a solid stronghold, but a solid foundation in your relationship. Okay. So point number 4 is building connection. And here, like I said, this is the part where you're all waiting on. Building connection, you're really just looking at continual intimacy. And trust me, it actually is possible. Okay. Now I get it. No one wants to talk about or even work on their relationship every day, all day. But when you are building intimacy that you build in a relationship does not stop after boy meets girl, boy gets girl, or vice versa. You know, hey, all for equal empowerment. It doesn't stop there. Okay. No, when you're in a relationship, you still have to continue to build upon the intimacy that you have. And then when you get married, guess what? The fortunate part of this is that you get to continue it. Okay. It's sort of like when I go to the gym, right? So I started, I had an accident some years ago, and the doctors told me, and my physical therapist told me, you know, hey, you're going to have to work out in order to keep your back muscles strong. Otherwise, you'll have these repeated problems with your back. I didn't like hearing that news because I'm wishy-washy when it comes to working out. I'll do something for a year, dip off, do something else, dip off and don't do anything, and then come back and do something else, rotating the things that I like to do. But when they told me this, I was like, okay, this is a good time for me to get my little self together. And my alumni group had this thing that we did where we were just staying connected with our physical activity, had monthly challenges. It was great. So it got me to walking every day. And after walking, I built up enough, energy and strength to be able to run. Then from there, I started asking my nephew, hey, let's go work out. You are a trainer, help me out. And he got me going, asked me what I want to do. I said, I wanted to get toned. Well, we did that. After I got toned in like 3 months, I was like, okay, this is nice, but I want more. This isn't enough. And then it was like, okay, what do you want to do? I was like, I think I want to build muscle. So then we went through bulk season and I built muscle. And he was like, all right, how you doing? I was like, I've met goal. I like my muscle, but I can't see my muscle that well because I have this layer of fat that's over it. Now, for me, I'm not overweight, but I didn't like how it looked. So he was like, okay, well, let's shed and let's start shaping that. So then I joined this program and literally lost 10 pounds worth of fat. And I still look at myself and I'm like, okay, I could lose some more fat because my back, just being honest, my back and my abs aren't where I exactly want them. What is my point I'm getting to here? Every time I make a goal, then reach that goal, I see something else. And so that isn't enough. It was enough to sustain me for that. But then I reached another phase. I kind of graduated, then went to something else, then graduated, then went to something else. That's how intimacy is. You build it, then you find out, okay, well, that's good, but I can continue building it. Okay, well, that's nice, but I can continue building it because you're always seeing something more. It's not insatiable as if it's a well that can never be filled. No, that's not it. Instead, you have to look at it as once you build it and it's strong, then you build on top of that because it's almost as if you aren't complacent or you plateau. So therefore, you have to continue building. Otherwise, you will revert. If I stop working out, I'm going to go back to how it was in the very beginning when the doctors were like, you have to build up those back muscles. Otherwise, you're going to have issues. I don't have back issues too much anymore because I'm working out consistently. What is my point? With intimacy, you have to be continually making intentional efforts. Okay. Now, there are two things I really could go into, but we don't have enough time. So I'm going to focus on one point. One point that will help you to always maintain and continue to build on intimacy are emotional bank deposits. So let's think of it this way. When I go to the bank and I put money in the bank, I am continually making small efforts to continue to build my savings, right? Now, if today I go into the bank and I write out a withdrawal form for $5 million, the bank attendant will probably push the little button and ask for the security guard or send 911 because she thinks there's danger because I've written out this stupid form, because I don't have $5 million in my savings account, but I will one day. Don't worry about that. But my point is, if you make deposits into account, when you go to make a withdrawal, you can only take out what is there. But if I try to withdraw more than what's there, I will be left in a deficit, right? We've had that before, where you get that lovely little NSF fee that everybody loves to hate, and we rightfully hate. And we teach ourselves, no, you're not getting me again. I'm not wasting my money. And if you overdraw your account, it's because we withdrew more than what was sitting in the account itself. Now, with that being said, this is what will happen when it comes to a relationship. When things are going great and we're doing things and we're building up our relationship, when we're building connection in our relationship, and we know we're doing the right things and our partner is doing the right thing, then guess what? We are making small little deposits. As we make these deposits, we make them with small, kind comments, texts, phone calls, FaceTimes, even sexting, even sex, right? You're doing all of these things to build up this relationship, to connect with your partner in a relationship. But when we have disagreements or challenging times in our relationship and heavy conflict in our relationship, that is a withdrawal. So if I have more of those than I have deposits, then it leaves my relationship in a deficit, to whereas I am not connected with my partner because I have more negative experiences than positive experiences. So whenever we have more negative than positive, we look at the relationship as not so satisfactorily, right? Because I'm wanting good times, not reflection on bad times, but it seems as if I have more bad than good. If you want to build connection, here's what you need to do. You have to consciously and intentionally make deposits into your relationship. Like I said, phone calls, texting, sexting, sex, conversation, connecting with your partner, spending quality time together, exuding love on that individual as per their love language, filling them up with so much love that when conflict does happen, it's as if there's $2 million in your bank account. You have this conflict and it's a big one, $100,000 worth. Well, if I had $2 million in my bank account and I withdrew 100,000, that's but a small little minute withdrawal from the account because my bank account is still pretty hefty, but it's because I had so much already sitting there. When we have conflict in our relationship and it happens more so than our connecting times in a relationship, our relationship does not have strength or ability to survive. So we have to make certain that we spend more time with deposits so that should conflict come, because it's not if, it is when. So therefore, should it come, because we know it will come, we're prepared and we're ready for it because we have the healthy tools to deal with it. We know we're actually going to engage with our partner in this conversation. We're actually going to respond to them. We're not going to oppose them. We're actually going to soothe them. We're actually going to hear them out. We're actually going to be a source of support and listen, and then be accountable for our part if there is one. But when we do this, we are staying on the complaint, right? So all of those prior pieces, I'm just putting all those together so that when it happens, that withdrawal is not going to exceed the deposits. So make certain that you are making deposits. So you might say, well, what does that look like? I'm glad you asked, because that moves us to our next acronym. LOL. That's right. But not the kind of LOL you're thinking of. Instead, this one is love out loud. So when you love out loud, it's your way of making emotional bank deposits in your relationship. Okay. So these are things that you're doing with some of the examples that I have already given you. I'll repeat them because you might have forgot, but just give you time to write them down again. Calling, messaging, sexting, texting, FaceTiming, asking about their day, giving quality conversation, spending quality time, having private time together with date night, just cuddling up next to one another, being supportive of one of their events, doing a new activity together and sharing in that moment and talking about it, learning about them in their world. Okay. Those are basic emotional deposits. Like I said, I can go on and on about them, but those are basic ones. But in addition, create a routine, okay? Meaning that you're actually sharing your head and your heart with your partner, or you are identifying, places and time in the day where they're trying to connect with you, right? That means through calling, texting, like all those things I said before, where they are trying to connect with you, right? You're identifying that and you're actually responding favorably towards them. So it's not a missed attempt, okay? You're also considering positive perspectives. You're not assuming the negative about everything, but you're actually considering alternative responses, right? We don't have to go play super sleuth. You see these clues, so the clues must mean, no, how about we just sit down, right? If there's something negative out there, you'll find out about it. You don't have to go look for it. It'll come out. You don't have to worry about it. But if we continue to make these deposits, then we can strengthen the relationship, okay? That means if we have a complaint, how about we address it softly when we address it, right? Or how about we actually talk about our emotions? How about we have a date night experience where we actually get to spend time enjoying one another's company like we did in the early days, okay? So when you are looking at connecting to the place where you are building your connection, you have to do so with continuous intimacy, not intermittent, but continuous intimacy, because this will allow you to get to a place where you have more love in your emotional bank. So therefore, you've put in so much that the deposits are strong. So if a withdrawal comes along, it won't wipe you out. Okay. All right. Well, that brings us to point number 5, which is our final point and the reason why we're here today, which is mastering connection. At the end of the day, folks, it all comes down to this famous phrase where you hear a lot of times. I know I saw a lot of wedding invitations with this theme. You hear a lot about this at a wedding. And the point is, today I married my best friend. It sounds cliche-ish. Is that the right word? Cliche-ish? Am I saying that right? I don't even know if I'm saying that right. But it sounds like a cliche. But in essence, it's so very true. Why? Remember I told you about building upon this house and you have to have a solid foundation? Every solid foundation of a relationship is based on the relationship starting from a place of friendship. I know when you first meet this person, they're the finest thing in the world. I get it. You're not thinking of your friends like that. But when we spend time learning one another, we build this solid foundation of friendship. You have to learn your partner. Get that the MRS degree, get that MR degree. You have to learn your partner. It's a requirement. There's just no way around it. There's no way in the world. Let's just look at real best friends. There's no way in the world I could be best friend with my friends. I have like two best friends. There's no way I can be. Now, they don't say that. They're like, we're too grown to be saying I have best friends. They can do what they want. I can say what I want. So I say I have 2 best friends. There's no way I can be best friends with them and I know nothing about them. It's just not possible. There's no way I can be best friends with someone and we don't spend time together. It's not possible. Right now, one of my best friends, we're in this morning chat group with the 3 of us, and we say good morning to each other every single day. We check in with each other every single day. We know when one another has to go to a serious doctor's appointment, or if there's something serious happening in our personal life. We know all about this. We know what's going on with our work lives. We joke with one another throughout the day. What are we doing? We're building our solid friendship. We are stronger than ever now. Why? Because we are making intentional efforts to connect. And these are just my friends, my girls from high school, my girls from middle school, still close with them. I have another close friend. She's like family. Something happened to her. I was there checking in on her regularly, consistently. And we hadn't really done that in a while. It got to the place where I was like, dang, girl, I miss checking in with you every day a week. So now this is just regular. This is just what we do, because we were learning and building in that relationship. If we do this with our friend group, shouldn't we do this with our significant other? Shouldn't we? If that can make a friendship solid, what would happen to a love relationship that was just as solid because of that friendship? People, you must not just love your partner. You must like your partner, because that's the person we need to be speaking to about every aspect of our life, every question, care, concern, fear, challenge, whatever. That's the person who, outside of God, is our first person to go to talk to. So your partner should be your best friend. And in order to master connection, I'm not just making this up. If you go look it up, John Gottman has in his Sound Relationship House that friendship is one of the elementary, yes, I said that right, elementary pillars when it comes to building a sound relationship house. Friendship is the basic minimum, because you need this in order to get to a place where you have a strong relationship. Okay. With that being said, that's right. It is time for me to, I know that one was pretty short because it's very much just self-explanatory. There's only so much I can explain about being your partner's best friend, but it takes time to build that. And here's the catch. I know you know how to do it, because in any relationship that you've had, past or current, and hopefully future, if that applies to you, but we did it all in the beginning. This is that time where we're calling that person all the time. We're texting them, messaging them, sharing stuff on social media with them, spending time with one another, dating, going out to different places together, talking, can't get enough of that person. It's like an addiction. We do all of that in the beginning of the relationship, but once we seem to get comfortable and complacent, we let that go. That means we stopped being intentional. And when we stop being intentional, we lose our ability to master connection. When you become a master of connection, you have learned to be your partner's best friend. You have learned to communicate and express yourself healthily. You have learned to be able to address your conflict. And all of that in knowing, you know, in this relationship, for love to continue to have room for growth, you must make emotional bank deposits on a consistent basis. Again, being intentional. You're making certain that if you do have problems, you are really going to address that problem very carefully. You're thinking specifically how to go about doing that so that you are not unkind in any way, but you are truthful in expressing how it is that you are experiencing a situation when you address a complaint, so that your partner does not have to be fearful of you when conflict comes around. And then you are basing all of this on the picture that you created, because you developed in your head the type of person and relationship that you wanted. So when that came to you, you built what you have based on what you started with. And it all started with your vision. Okay. When you master connection, you are learning to not just give love healthily, but you're receiving love healthily, and you're open to being vulnerable in doing so. So that leaves me with the last acronym, because we need to check in with this one too, folks. All right. And the last acronym, I thought it was kind of appropriate since we're talking about love. The last acronym is love itself, but we're going to spell love, L-U-V. So I want to know, where is the love when it comes to mastering connection? All right. So the first element of this acronym is nothing other than love itself, right? So you want to ask yourself, in your day-to-day interactions in your relationship, how do you express your love to your partner? Do you? How do you do it? Is it evident to them? Is it very direct and clear? Or do they have to figure out and put the clues and the pieces together? right? Are you a person where you are available to them? Not meaning that you're always there in their face, but meaning emotionally available to them, right? Allowing yourself to be sensitive and expressing your emotion. You're responding to them and their needs as well, all right? Second thing, are you understanding, right? When it comes to love, sometimes we think I must agree with what this other person is saying. And a lot of times our head gets in the way of our heart. We don't always have to agree. I've told you this story before. I came up with this idea of making a cold wave. It was going to be just like a microwave, but instead it cooled things off very quickly. And the guy I was dating at the time, I'm sure he thought like, what is this girl talking about? But being very understanding and knowing me, he went right along with it. And that's all most people really want, is for you to hear them, thus feeling heard and understood. When we are understanding of a person, it means that they can express themselves. And even though I might not agree, I understand that this is who they are. This is where they're coming from. So I offer them reassurance, support, and or comfort. And when I do that, it allows that person to feel heard and understood. And at the end of the day, that's what everyone wants. Why? Because it leads us into point number 3 of this acronym, validation. We all want to feel validated. What is validation? Meaning loved, cared for, and supported. When I am stressed in this world, can I come to you as my partner because you're going to validate me and make me feel better? If I feel like there's a threat to this relationship, will you validate me and make me feel secure? I remember one time I was talking with my boyfriend and I asked him, I was like, he had said he loved me. And I was like, you sure? Tell me why you love me. Now, I'm not an insecure individual, but in that moment, I really just wanted to know. I was just feeling like I needed some validation that day. Probably about maybe 2 or 3 days later, he came back and he was like, I asked my mama, like, why did she ask me, did I love her when I told her that? And she was like, oh, baby, we as women, we do that. We get in these moments where we're just wanting, extra love or to be validated. And when we hear from you, the person we love, then we're like, okay, all is right with the world. I wanted him to validate me. As an individual, did I need to be validated? Meaning that my self-esteem was low and I needed him to daily boost me up? No. But we as humans, we need to be validated by the people who hold our heart and matter most to us. And for most people outside of our parents and God, that is Jesus. So when our partner validates us, when we know how to validate our partner, we are providing protection and comfort, support, relief, and love to that individual. Because at the end of the day, we want to be validated, knowing that we are loved, cared for, and supported. So when it comes to mastering connection, where is the love, right? Where is your love with this person? Are they seeing it? Where is your understanding of this person? And where is your validation? Because this, my people, will help you to build a solid foundation and a solid framework for establishing a healthy connection and thus allowing you to master connection. All right. That's it, my people. I hope you have gotten it, because mastering connection is essential if you want to experience the most and best from love. All right, well, that's it for today's episode. And you know how I like to close out the show with our like it, love it, leave it tips. So what would I say? Like it tip. I like the fact that here we are mastering connection, and that if we apply our effort, then we get to actually see the rewards of our labor. So I like that no matter where we are, we can pivot, and in pivoting, we can get to a place where we are mastering connection. Now, what do I love? I think I love the fact that if we have a outline or a framework for what to do, because I know when people tell you, you can do this, and they tell you that you can accomplish something, but they leave out the steps to doing that. Some people don't think like that. Some people, can't put the pieces together. They need help in connecting the dots. And I know for me, it's like, would you just give me a sticky and write down steps 1 through 10 and I can just go from there? I need it laid out for me. And if you're that individual, I love the fact that no matter who you are, these are steps to help you go from point A to point Z. If you are single and you're trying to figure out how do I best position myself for love now or in the new year or whenever, then these are 5 pieces that are essential elements for you to be able to move from where you are to where you want to be. So I love that it's an opportunity for someone that is single to set themselves up for success by preparing themselves now to know what to do, as well as how to begin building what you need to create and master connection. But I also love the fact that for anyone who is in a relationship, if you just start where you are, and even I get it. Picturing connection, you're like, wait a minute, I already have this person. But guess what? You can take what it is that you see and you can still pivot and build from there. Because we've heard of remodeling houses before. When they remodel houses, they don't generally tear down that framework. They keep the framework and then they build around that, or they add something on. You don't have to tear something down in order to rebuild, okay? So if I'm in a relationship, I love the fact that you too are able to use these tips and build from where you are. Now, what would I leave? I think I will leave out any excuse that prevents us from mastering connection. Yes, there are a number of things that we could say that stop us from getting the love that we want. I am the president of that group, meaning I could tell you so many things that would knock me out of the race, so to speak, from mastering connection, because I'm not even out in the game, so to speak. But guess what? I am the authority of this, and I have the ability to change it when I'm so ready. So no matter what excuse we can come up with, we are still in control. You are in control of your love life. You are in control of the relationship that you will have. I get it that it takes 2 to tango. No relationship is 50-50. There's no such thing. Throw that in the garbage. It's all about you giving 100 and the other person giving 100. And even if you outlove the other person, at the end of the day, the worst that can happen is that you gave and experienced the best from love, and you have something that is always valuable from that and should be, viewed upon as being a positive thing, but you can never outlove, because what's going to happen? Guarantee it. If it didn't work with that person, don't you worry, because you have sowed seed that the right one that is for you will come along, and they will help you in believing in love again, but also loving you even more than what you gave out and put out before. So put away all the excuses, leave those out, because there's no room for excuses in love. We have to make ourselves open and vulnerable. All right. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to rate and review us wherever you've downloaded the show. I'm telling you guys, this isn't just what I do. This is my passion. I've told you I've written a book on this, Get Naked, Learning to Love Again Without Fear. If you experience issues with really just learning how to love without dealing with some of the problems from your past or past relationships, check out that book. Just click the link in the show notes. And then, of course, don't forget the Connect 4 Challenge and the Baywatch Challenge, which will be starting on January 15th through the 21st. I'll have information in our last and final episode to sign up for that, as well as our Instagram page at Eros Meets Agape. And of course, you are more than welcome to join my weekly tech support group, where I'm just sharing self-love and relationship tips. So if you're single and you want some self-love and relationship tips, then join us at No Dessert. You're going to text that to 877-7LOVE-07. And if you are in a relationship or married and you want some dating and relationship advice, as well as some self-love and support, then you're going to text the word date night, spelled DATENITE, and you'll text that to the same number, 877-7LOVE-07. So again, that's No Dessert, all one word, and you're going to text that at 877-7LOVE-07, or text the word date night, 877-7LOVE-07. Don't forget to rate and review us wherever you've downloaded the show. We're available on all social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat at Eros Meets Agape. Hope to see you next time for our final episode as we do our sound off. But I have something special for you, so I can't wait to talk with you again. Until then, everyone, I'll see you soon. I'm Dr. Sadia, helping you to give and receive the love you both want and need. Be blessed, everyone. Bye-bye.